Well, a really busy day for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They tagged Chris Godwin, and they're extending linebacker Lavonte David. It's reportedly a 2-year, $25 million deal. This likely means they won't be able to hang on to Shaquille Barrett, who is going to be hitting the open market. But big for Tampa to at least retain 2 of those big 3 free agents. Let's bring in Jonathan Jones. JJ, you surprised at how quickly they got things done today with one of those defensive stalwarts?
Not all that surprised, because there was very strong mutual interest between the two to get a deal done. Lavonte David wanted to stay in Tampa Bay. He has gotten paid before as that 9-year linebacker, the only place that he's ever known and played for. But there was a sense of, okay, I'll take a hometown discount to a point, where if he were out there on the free agent market, he'd probably get a little bit more than this from another team, maybe a team that's not going to compete. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers had to understand that they were going to pay and respect Lavonte David. So not at all surprised that they got this deal done.
What does it mean for Shaq Barrett? Is there any way they can move stuff around and keep all 3 of these guys, Godwin, who is tagged, David, who is going to re-sign, and Shaq Barrett?
I'd be very surprised if Shaq Barrett is able to stay, just because he wants to break the bank. He's been tagged already. He played that season under the tag. He wants to go out there and be paid like the premier pass rusher that he is. And frankly, he could, on the open market, command a 4-year deal worth $19 and a half, $20 million per year. So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will not come close to that. If Shaq Barrett wants to be paid top dollar, he will not be playing with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2021. But if he wants a chance to repeat it as a Super Bowl champion, if he wants to be and feel respected with a short-term deal where he can get back out there into free agency, then I can see him land with Tampa. I know both sides are going to be working very hard at that, but again, Shaq Barrett has made it very clear in his sort of post-Super Bowl 55 media tour that he wants to get paid handsomely this offseason. And listen, a lot of us are talking about how low the salary cap is, right? And it'll probably come in somewhere between $183 and $185 million for the 2021 season. When you're talking about a Pro Bowl or an All-Pro type player, a premier pass rusher in today's NFL, where you're throwing the ball 70 to 73% of the time, that guy's going to get paid. Your backup linebacker or your strong safety, even your starting strong safety, some of those guys aren't getting paid this offseason. Shaq Barrett's going to get paid this offseason.
Why did they decide to tag Chris Godwin instead of Shaq Barrett?
Well, so they had already tagged Shaq Barrett, so his number was going to be a lot higher than Chris Godwin's on his first tag. So that's number 1. Number 2, they think that they have one of the best young receivers in the entire NFL. That's number 2. And then number 3, the fact is that Chris Godwin is beloved in that locker room. That's not at all to say that Shaq Barrett is not, but what I hear from sources that I speak to down in Tampa, he's just the guy that the locker room really gravitates towards. And it's interesting to say that in a locker room that also has Tom Brady and plenty of other fantastic players and personalities. But when he injured his thumb and had surgery and came back that next week to play, that showed a lot of guys his grit and toughness and determination. Not to mention, of course, his athletic exploits and what he's able to do on the field. So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers wanted to bring him back, make sure that they were going to be able to lock him down at least for 2021, and I don't know if they're going to be able to reach a long-term deal with them with their salary cap constraints, even if they have some time, which they will by July 15th to reach that franchise tag extension deadline. But if it were me, I would have made sure to keep Shaq Barrett and said, you know what, we can get a pretty decent wide receiver who has some speed, who will come here on the cheap to play with Tom Brady in pursuit of a ring, as we have seen plenty of guys do. But I do understand from Tampa's perspective, certainly talking with folks there, why they decided to go with Chris Godwin on the tag.
Tag Chris Godwin, and they're bringing back Lavonte David, reported 2 years, $25 million. That means Shaq Barrett likely going to go elsewhere and make a boatload of money. Jonathan Jones here with us on HQ on Tag Day. The deadline came and went at 4 p.m. Eastern time. Really busy last 24 hours in the NFL, and it all started with the Dak mega deal. Pick Six podcast has you completely up to date with all the reaction. Check it out. They are recording almost nonstop these days.
Let's welcome in two-time Super Bowl champ Bryant Mcfadden here. All right, so they get the deal done with David. B-Mac, what does this mean for Tampa?
They're all in. Again, Amanda, they're trying to get right back to the promised land, which will be in Los Angeles, to try to compete for another championship. And they knew how important Lavonte David was, not just to the locker room, not just to the organization, but on the defensive side. I mean, it's safe to say the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with Lavonte David and Devin White have the two best inside linebackers in the entire league. And we saw how much they meant to their defense during that playoff run. I mean, Lavonte has been nothing but a stand-up guy on and off the football field. He's been extremely durable. I mean, since getting drafted in the second round in 2012, he's only missed 7 ball games. I mean, when you talk about a guy that's a seasoned vet, but extremely durable, not to mention a difference maker, and he's a well-respectable individual. I had an opportunity to have him on All Things Covered podcast with me and Pat Peterson, and he said when Tom Brady signed with them over a year ago, he FaceTimed Lavonte David ASAP. And that tells you the respect that Lavonte has, not just in Tampa, but throughout the National Football League, where the GOAT, the greatest of all time, signing with your organization, decided to reach out to you first and foremost to let you know he's ready to rock and roll with you. That's just the sign of respect. And I think they understood what he means to them, their team, outside of his production, but just in the locker room, having a good guy around. Not to mention they paid him well. I think 2 years, 25 million, 20 million guaranteed. That's a nice check for a guy who's closer to the end of his career than the beginning, but yet and still can play top level football.
So you said this tells you that the Bucs, they're all in yet again. They put the tag on Chris Godwin. They come to the extension with David there. But what about Shaq Barrett? Because he was an integral part of this team past season, but what happens now?
That's a good question, Amanda. I just talked about the duo with White and David. They have another pass rushing duo in front of White and David and JPP and Shaq Barrett. Now, it depends on the suitors that are trying to acquire for his services, right? It's safe to say if you're talking about his market value, I think it would be anywhere between $18 and $19 million. I wouldn't be surprised to see it be close to $20 million a year because the price for a premium pass rusher is going to be high. But if Shaq Barrett is looking to cash in and not to mention be a part of a competitive team, Tampa might be the best destination. The reason why I say that is because we know what they have when it comes to competing and being relevant. Tom Brady just won a championship. The likelihood of them getting back to that level, again, is highly likely in their favor. But when it comes to the financial terms as well, if he gets offered $19 million from the New York Jets and Tampa offers him around 16 or 17 million, at the end of the day, when you talk about taxes and Tampa being in a tax-free state, that would be the same money basically that he would receive from the New York Jets when taxes and everything is taken out of his paycheck. So I think that is where he has to decide on what is extremely important to him. Being able to get paid like a premium pass rusher and being able to be a part of a competitive team. Because I can tell you this much, I played in Pittsburgh. Our state taxes weren't that bad, but they weren't that good. But when we used to play in places that didn't have any state taxes, we saw a difference in our weekly check. Because as NFL players, you get taxed in the state that you play in that particular weekend. Anytime we visited Tennessee, anytime we visited Texas or Florida, we saw a big difference in our check based on those states not having any state income taxes. So I think that could be a deciding factor in what Shaq Barrett will do, because we know there are a lot of bad teams that would love to assign him to a long-term deal. But when you talk about the tax break, the tax benefit, the tax break that the state of Florida has, I mean, that might be able to trump Shaq Barrett in deciding to return to the Sunshine State as well.
Really quickly here, B-Mac, so if you are Shaq Barrett, you've won 2 Super Bowls already. Do you chase the money or do you stay with Tampa?
I think you try to chase both, right? You got to be greedy. You don't just try to chase one and leave the other behind. I think, like I said, if you're talking about a team like the Jets, talking about a team in California, if they offer you around $19, $20 million, and let's say best case scenario, Tampa's only offering you 17 and a half, something like that. Like I said, when you do your math and you kind of do the numbers the right way after taxes, it kind of evens things out on the playing field when it comes to the financial terms. And if you're telling me you're basically gonna get the same money that you're going to get from another organization when everything is done when it comes to taxes, I think the best place to stay, the best place to be at, to say the least, would be Tampa, right?
You know, I'm going to take you. You've won some Super Bowls. You've done some things there. I'm going to let you answer that one there, BMAC. All right. Thanks so much for hopping on with us for this breaking news. And you can hear much more from BMAC. You're going to want to download and subscribe to his podcast right now, because he and Patrick Peterson just got done talking to Nick Saban. It is about to drop on their podcast. BMAC says he got him to smile a couple times. What's in store for the Crimson Tide this next season? Coming up on All Things Covered.
Want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.